1, 2, 3, 4.
Have you ever made a decision under pressure that you knew was wrong the moment you made it, and you still made it anyway? That is not a character flaw. That is your prefrontal cortex going offline. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what happened in your brain and what regulated leaders do differently. So again, going back to the decision that you took under pressure, though you knew you should not make it. And you didn't take that decision not because you didn't care, not because you were not smart enough, not because you were not experienced enough. You still made the wrong call. And maybe afterward you thought, what was wrong with me? Here is the answer. Nothing was wrong with you. Your prefrontal cortex went offline. I'm Sahar Andrade. I'm a Neuroleadership coach and Forbes Coach Council member. Welcome to the AI Cafe Conversations. I'm here today to show you exactly what happened inside your brain in that moment and what regulated leaders do differently. Because the difference between a leader who stays clear under pressure and one who unravels is not intelligence. It's not experience. It's not willpower. It's nervous system regulation. So let's get into it. Let me talk you into the biology, or let me take you inside your brain for a moment. You are in a boardroom, the board is watching. Someone puts a question to you that you were not expecting. The stakes are high. Your body knows it before your brain catches up. What happens next is ancient, is not modern, it's not leadership, it's pure survival. Cortisol floods your bloodstream, adrenaline follows, your heart rate climbs, your muscles prepare to move. This is your stress response system doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you rapidly without asking permission. Here is the problem though. That system was designed for physical threats, a predator, an attack, a sprint for survival. It was not designed for a budget meeting or a board question or even a team conflict. But your nervous system does not know the difference. So what happens to your brain in those seconds? Blood flow shifts. Specifically, it shifts away from the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking, strategic reasoning, consequence evaluation, impulse control, the ability to ask, wait, is this the right move? When cortisol hits, that function goes offline. The amygdala takes over. The amygdala is your threat detection center. It's fast, it's automatic, and it's built for speed, not accuracy. The amygdala does not ask, is this threat real? It asks, is this threat possible? And then it reacts. That is what neuroscientists sometimes call an amygdala hijack. The emotional reactive brain overrides the thinking brain. And here is what that looks like from the inside. The decision feels urgent. It feels necessary. It feels right in the moment because your nervous system is treating it as survival. You're not making a strategic decision. You're having a survival reaction and calling it a decision. This is not weakness. This is 200 million years of evolution doing its job, but in the wrong context. Research confirms what neuroscience has long suspected: your judgment under pressure depends far more on your physiological state than your intelligence. then your experience, then even your intentions. Your brain under threat is a different brain, literally. The neural pathways being used are different. The chemical environment is different. The information being prioritized is different. You are not the same thinker at 10 a.m. in a regulated state as you are at 4 p.m. after 6 hours of high stake decisions and a cortisol spike. And yet, we expect leaders to perform at the same level in both states. That expectation is not leadership development. That is wishful thinking about human biology. What it looks like in the room, now let's make this real. Because I want you to recognize these moments, not in theory, in the rooms you have been in. The leader who commits to the wrong vendor because the board is watching. She had reservations. She had flag concerns in private. But when the moment came, when all eyes were on her and the silence stretched, her nervous system read the room as a threat. The pressure to resolve the tension was louder than the data. Imagine that. She signed the contract and spent the next 6 months managing a relationship that should never have started. That was not a leadership failure. That was a nervous system response. The executive who approves a budget cut he does not believe in. He had a counter proposal ready. He had the numbers. But when his supervisor pushed back with impatience, his body registered it as a threat. The discomfort of disagreement felt dangerous. So he folded. He called it being collaborative. His team called it abandonment. That was not a character flaw. That was a fawn response. His nervous system chose appeasement to reduce threat. The CEO who doubles down on a failing strategy. She has seen the data. The pilot results are not moving. But reversing course would mean admitting she was wrong in front of her board, her team, and her investors. Her nervous system reads reversal as threat to identity. So she pushes harder, rationalizes the data, blames executions, and buys time. That is not stubbornness. That's a threat response, protecting her sense of self. Here is the pattern across all three. They all feel like decisions. They're actually reactions. The distinction matters because decisions can be improved with better data, better processes, better framework. Reactions cannot. Not at the moment they happen. Not without first addressing the nervous system state that is driving them. And this is where leadership development typically fails. We teach leaders better frameworks for decision making. We give them mental models, matrices, and looks, and tools. But none of those tools function when the prefrontal cortex is offline. You cannot use a tool you cannot access. Remember that. When you are on survival mode, you can never access any tool because you live in that threat. So you cannot use a tool that you cannot access. So what regulated leaders do differently? And I always like to make sure to share that in every podcast. I want to be clear about what I mean by regulated. I'm not talking about calm. I'm not talking about unemotional. I am not talking about never feeling pressure. Regulated means you have enough access to your prefrontal cortex to choose your response rather than react from your amygdala. This is the entire difference. Choice versus reaction. Here is how regulated leaders build that capacity. First, they create a gap between stimulus and response. There is a gap. Viktor Frankl wrote about this. Neuroscience confirms it. The gap is real. It's physical. It's the milliseconds and seconds between the moment your amygdala fires and the moment your prefrontal cortex either comes back online or stays offline. Regulated leaders know how to use that gap, not as a mindset tip, not as a think before you react reminder, as a physical practice. A breath that is longer on the exhale than the inhale activates the vagus nerve and shifts the nervous system toward regulation. Your vagus nerve is basically the highway from your neck down through your body that transmits all the actions from the vagus nerves. So the vagus nerves shifts the nervous system toward regulation when you exhale longer than you inhale. And I usually say this: inhale on 4 from your nose, hold for 4, and then exhale from your mouth on the count of 8. That is not motivational language. That is automatic physiology. Again, inhale from your nose for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 8 counts. Do it 3 times, 3 cycles. That is enough to begin shifting blood flow back towards the frontal cortex. 90 seconds. That's all it takes. 90 seconds. So if you start having this as a habit to exhale longer than you inhale for 3 cycles, 4 for 8, you can actually shift the blood flow to go to your thinking part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, so it can come back online. You don't need 20 minutes. Again, 90 seconds. And a physical practice you have actually trained for. Second, they know their own early warning signals. Emotional intelligence, anyone? Every nervous system has tells. For some leaders, it's the jaw tightening. For some, it's the chest pressure. For some, it's the voice that gets quieter or the voice that gets louder. For some, it's the moment they start talking faster than they are thinking. Regulated leaders know their signals, not in retrospect, before the cortisol fully hits. This is the window. The moment before hijack completes. That is where intervention is possible. Once the amygdala has fully taken over, you are managing damage. The regulated leader catches it before that. You can't catch a signal you have never mapped. Third, they separate urgency from importance before the pressure arrives. This is the piece most leaders skip. Most urgency is manufactured, not by malicious intent, but by the nervous system. When someone else is dysregulated, they create urgency. They need an answer now. They need a decision today. They need a resolution. And their urgency is contagious. Your nervous system picks up the signal and begins to mirror it. Regulated leaders decide what is actually important before they are in the room. They know which decisions are truly time sensitive and which decisions are only feeling that way because someone else's amygdala is running the meeting. The question is not, is this urgent? The question is this urgent to me? Or is this urgent because I have absorbed someone else's threat response? The framework underneath all of this, everything I just described, the gap, the early warning signs, the pre-decision regulation, they are not separate tips. They are part of a connected approach to building a nervous system that leads rather than reacts. The approach I use with executive has a name, BRAIN, BRAIN. 5 evidence-based principles that create the neurological conditions for lasting leadership change. I'm not going to unpack the full framework here. That work lives in my workshops and coaching programs. But what I want you to know is that this is systematic, not accidental. Regulated leadership is not a personality trait. It's a built capacity, and it can be built. The next time you feel the pull to decide right now, that feeling is data. Your nervous system is signaling threat. The question is not whether to make a decision. The question is whether you want your amygdala running your organization or your prefrontal cortex. Because the best strategy in the world is useless when the brain running it is in survival mode. You're not broken. You're wired the same way every human is wired. The difference is whether you know it and what you do with that knowledge. If you want to know where you stand, not your organization, not your team, you personally, I keep 30-minute leadership clarity calls open for exactly this conversation. No pitch, no presentation, just clarity. The link is in the description below. Thank you for being here, and until next time, stay regulated. Before I leave, like every time, I ask you to show me some love, subscribe, comment, rate our podcast, share it with someone that needs to read it. We have a fan mail link here. I received a couple last week and I was so happy and giddy about it, so thank you. Please, like I said, show us some love. Commenting and rating it and sharing our podcast help us reach more people that actually really need to hear this. Till I see you next time in our Friday Forbes article like short episode. Peace out.